Hi, I'm Pam Cullen of 3 Mile Pond Girl Creates, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Augusta, Maine. And today I'd like to show you how I created this card using the Share a Milkshake Bundle. I have monthly card classes, and this was one of the cards that we made, and we had such a fun time making this card because there are several different techniques that we used to create this card, and so it was really a fun time. So let me show you my inspiration for this card. This stamp set and bundle are featured in our mini catalog, and this is the card that I got my inspiration from. And as you can see, I changed mine up just a little bit. I used the polished pink for my card base, and I changed up the cone, and I used the linen thread, instead of the white linen thread, and put the cherry on top. So I just changed it up a little bit to make it my own, and then on the inside I put the "You're the Cherry" on top as the inside sentiment. So let me show you some of the things about this of this stamp set. This is actually the stamp set, and it's really great because it's very versatile, because you can you celebrate for birthdays or any kind of a celebration. Life is sweeter with you. Be my Valentine. So there are several, a lot of occasions that you could use this for, and who doesn't like ice cream? So that's something you can celebrate every day, right? So here are some of the dies, and one of the ones that I really loved in this set was this one, and I don't really know I like to call it the tic-tac-toe die, but it makes a really nice accent on this piece or on other cards not necessarily related to this. And then you'll see that it cuts out several of these the dies cut out each of the pieces of the stamps here. So we're going to be using several of those dies today and several of the stamps. So this one I really love as well, because this die is going to make this ice cream cone, but it also makes a waffle cone, which I think that's really, really adorable and really a great way to use this die. And also this is the one that cuts out your your ice creams flavors, and this little piece creates a slit. So each one of these flavors of ice cream has a little slit in it, which is really cute, because if you see from the set, you can use a straw, the spoon, the hearts, or the cherry on in those little slits, or any combination of those together. So I thought that was I think the set has a lot of really cute accents to it. So these are the 3 dies that we're going to be using today to create this card. So some of the other things we're going to do is we're actually going to create our own designer series paper using one of this cute little heart stamp set, and the Blushing Bride ink for that. And then we're going to do some heat embossing on the vellum with gold embossing powder. So that's a really fun technique. So this isn't a difficult card at all. It just has some really cute and fun steps to it. So let me show you some of the pieces that we're going to use, and you don't need to worry, because all of the products that I used and the dimensions and colors and all of that stuff will be on my blog, and listed right below this video. So don't worry about that. I'll give you all the measurements if you'd like to make this card yourself. So here's our base, and we're using a polished pink base of 5.5 by 8.5, and it's scored at 4 1/4. And then we have our 5 1/4 by 4 piece that we're going to use for the inside. And then we have a piece of another basic white piece that's 5.5 by 3.5, which is what we're going to create our designer series paper with. Our piece of vellum, a scrap piece of crumb cake for our cone, and then this is just a scrap piece of white that we're going to stamp our ice cream flavors and our cherry on, and then our piece of linen thread for there. So let's get started. I think we'll do our stamping first. So let's go ahead and start with our creating our piece of designer series paper. And so we're going to be using our Blushing Bride ink for that. And there really is no set technique to this. One of the things though that we should use, because these are photopolymer stamps, it's a good idea so that you get a really nice impression on your paper, is to use the Stamp and Pierce mat as a base underneath, and then you get a really nice stamp each time you use that. So we're just going to use our Blushing Bride ink, and we're just going to start randomly putting some of these hearts on this piece of one of our base layers here. So see, it's not, there's no set pattern. I'm just basically filling in some of these pieces, and then when we get done, if there's any spots that it looks like we should add something. And generally, sometimes when you do this technique, you leave space in the middle because you're going to cover it up with another layer. But since we're using vellum for this, we're going to pretty much fill up this entire piece of paper with our hearts. And I'm going to just, looks like we might need a little something right there, a little right here, there. I think that looks good. So see how easy that was? And we have this really pretty piece of accent for our base layer, our layer base. So that will go right on like that. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and stamp our ice cream flavor pieces on this just strip of scrap paper. So for those, we're going to be using polished pink. I'm going to go ahead and use polished pink and Pool Party and the Blushing Bride again. So I'm going to go ahead first, and I'm going to do my Blushing Bride first because it's the lightest color. And we're just going to go ahead and stamp that. And then I'm going to go ahead and do my polished pink. And it doesn't matter. You'll see I didn't clean off my stamps in between because we're going from a lighter to a darker color. But now, because we're changing colors, I'm going to go ahead and clean this stamp set. And I'm going to just pat it off a little bit to try and get the rest of that ink off. And then we'll go ahead and go in with our Pool Party and stamp that one right there. There we go. So there's our 3 ice cream flavors. And now, while we have the ink out, we're just going to go ahead and take our little cherry stamp. We're going to stamp that as well in the polished pink. And there we go. So to save a little bit of time on the video, I did already go ahead and die cut these out. So there's our pieces cut out, and there's our cherry. And as you can see, each one of these has that little slit in it. And so we're going to go ahead and just, as we go along here, we're going to slide that cherry in the top of that piece like that. And isn't that cute? It's so cute. All right, so then we're also going to set those aside for a moment. And then I've already, with our scrap piece, I just took a scrap piece of crumb cake and ran this die through the cut and emboss machine, and I got this piece of, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but can you see the ridges in the impression in there? And then here's the 2 creases that you can make this into. You would make this into the waffle cone. But we're going to go ahead and take our trimmers, and I'm just going to trim off those 2 edges and make this into just a regular cone. Of course, if you're making this at home, if you want to make yours a waffle cone, you are certainly welcome to do that. So then I'm going to take my crumb cake ink, and I'm going to just take a sponge dauber, which sticks right on the tip of your finger, and I'm going to just lightly put that on the edges of my cone here, just to give this a little bit of dimension and just a little bit more interest, make it stand out a little bit. The first card I made, I put it on the entire piece, but I didn't really care for that, and because I thought it maybe would bring this out a little bit, but it actually didn't. So on this one I ended up just putting it on the edges, and see how that just makes it pop a little bit more. So there's that piece. We have that piece ready to go. And so then we are going to take our piece of vellum. Let me close these inks up. We're going to take our piece of vellum, and Stampin' Up! Just came out with a really great heat embossing kit, and I will show you that in just a second. And it is so nice because we used to have an embossing buddy, and then that Stampin' Up! Stopped carrying it for a little while, but thankfully they brought it back with this kit. So when you get this embossing kit, and I'm terrible with the names, so I promise you I will have the correct name for this in the supplies, so you'll know if you want to order this, you'll know what it is. So you get this embossing buddy, you get these great tweezers. I love, love, love these tweezers. And then you get this nice brush for when you get pieces of the embossing powder in places that you don't want it, and you want to be sure to get those off before you do your heat embossing, and I'll show you that as we go along. So we're going to go ahead and take our piece of vellum, and I'm just going to use that embossing buddy on the bottom of this piece to just kind of get the static off and make it so that that powder and our ink, our Versamark ink, will stick to that really nicely. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and then we're going to take our Versamark ink, and we're going to take the stamp set that says "Life is Sweeter with You," and we're going to just put that down close to the bottom of our page so that we have room for our cone when we get this all done. So I'm just taking that up a little bit from the bottom, and you're not going to be able to see this when I stamp it on camera, but there it is. It's the Life is Sweeter with You. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there it is. So one little tip that is to make sure that you close up your ink before you start getting your embossing powder out, so that it doesn't end up all in your ink. So now we're going to go ahead and I have my gold embossing powder in this little container here, so we're going to go ahead and just sprinkle it on here. I'm going to tap it off a little bit. There we go. So now you can see where that is. And the beauty of this, I'm going to show you, the beauty of this is now that we've got that embossing powder in there, this comes off. And you just tip this, and all of it goes back in your container, so you get all of that. You don't waste any. And it's all contained to one area. So this is a really fabulous new tool. So let me get this out of the way. I am going to take my tweezers, and I don't see any, I probably won't see it until I heat emboss it, but I don't really see any powder where I don't want it. So now we're going to go ahead and bring in my heat tool, and this is going to make a little bit of noise for a minute. Just going to let it warm up for a second. So what this is going to do is it's going to make this so you can see on this card how it's raised, and you really can see the color in that. So now I'm just going to hold this here, And you want to be really careful with the vellum because it's a little more sensitive than the regular paper. So you see how that just went really quickly. So you don't want to overheat it because it will warp your paper, and it will also maybe burn it. So, you know, scorch it a little bit. So only do it until you get that. See, now isn't that pretty? So then I think we're now ready to put this card together. So what we're going to do is we're going to layer our homemade designer series paper. We're just going to glue this onto our piece of polished pink, and we're going to just center that so that it's the same amount of space on either side. And then the nice part with the liquid glue is you can kind of wiggle that around a little bit until you get it where you'd like it. So now there we have that. So then we're going to put this Life is Sweeter with You piece, we're going to center that in the middle. And what I am using for this is actually not a Stampin' Up product, but it's called Plus glue tape, and this is specifically for vellum, for gluing vellum, because if you've ever worked with vellum, you know that it's really hard to put any type of adhesive on there that's going to not show through your vellum. So this is a really great tape for that. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm actually going to run that tape where our sentiment is, and then I'm going to run a piece down here because that's where our cone is going to be. So all of our edges are not going to totally be sealed down, but that's okay. I'm okay with that. So we're just going to put this piece down in the center. Again, keeping, you know, the same amount, hopefully keeping it even on each side. So there we go. We have that. So now we can go ahead and assemble, move this out of here now that we're not stamping. So we can go ahead and assemble our ice cream cone with those 3 pieces. So what I did here was I used glue, and actually I see that I didn't really get this all the way centered on here. So I'm just going to take a little of this. I'm just going to take my trimmers and trim a little bit more of that white off the cherry right here. Just kind of get it even all the way around if I can. There we go. I think I like that a little bit better. It's not quite as, there we go. So now we're going to just layer those up. So let's bring our card back in. So we're going to put these 2 together. And so what I did on this was, because I only want that one little cut in there, that little, whatever it is in there. I covered that up with, I just glued, I made sure that when I layered these, I just put those pieces together like that. So I'm just going to carefully put like a little bit of glue near the bottom of that, because we don't want too much glue on there. So we're going to go ahead and put this one on top of that one, and see how I just covered that up so that we're not even going to see that. So then before I glued this one down, I did stick the cherry inside there so that it would get some of that glue, get some of the glue from this one. So I'm going to just put a little bit there and a little bit on there so that it will stick down to this piece. And we're going to just go over that. Whoops. Let's try that again. That's the thing about the glue. You got a little bit of time to redo that. So see our cherry got glued down on top of that. So that's going to stay in there. And then I just glued these 3 pieces to the top of this. So again, I'm just going to do it a little bit on here. Glue those 3 pieces together. those two pieces together. So there's our cone. See, this goes together really quickly, and I think it, you know, has some really nice interest to it. It has some fun techniques that we did, but it's not difficult. So now we're going to put, well, I'm going to attempt on camera to tie a bow. Sometimes I get brave. Sometimes I just do it off camera and have it ready, but I think, let's see. I like the linen thread because it's pretty easy and pretty, yeah. And then you can just decide how big you want your loops. Then we're going to take a glue dot. We're going to take one of our mini glue dots. We're just going to stick one of those on the back of this. Just going to pick that up. And you're just going to have to fold it down a little bit because the glue dot is a little bit bigger than that knot in your linen thread. So you just want to set this, let's put this together here, see where we want it. So our cone's going to go about there. We'll stick this like right about there. And then I cut my tails quite short on that one, but I think I'm going to leave these a little bit longer on this one. All right, here we go. Pull that in a little if we can. There. So then we're just going to take some dimensionals, which I have here somewhere. Here, they're stuck, so let me just grab some right here. What I do is I use all of my dimensionals. So what I've done is I've just cut some these little edges because you want to make sure that you use every bit of your dimensionals. So I'm just going to take some of these pieces and put them on the back here, and we'll pop this up so we give it a little bit of dimension since we're using dimensionals. That makes sense, right? So we're going to put this on, centered in the middle here. There we go. How cute is that? So the last thing we have to do, and I actually should have done this in the beginning when we were stamping, but I didn't remember it. So now we're just going to bring this mat back in, take our piece from our piece for our inside, and we're going to stamp, this time we're going to stamp You're the Cherry on top in our crumb cake ink. So let's bring that back in. Wrong stamp. There we go. Get this centered. There we go. So there's that for the inside, and then we're going to be done with this card. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I've been gone for a little while, but it's my goal to get back and hopefully have at least one video coming out weekly. And if you are watching this video and you haven't subscribed, liked and subscribed, if you would do that, I would really appreciate it. And if you don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd love to be your demonstrator. And you can, all of my contact information is listed below this video. And if you don't have a mini catalog, there's a new catalog that's coming out. So if you don't have those and you'd like to get a catalog, then please reach out if you have any questions. And like I said, this card and all of the supplies, all of the dimensions and everything so that you can create this card yourself will be on my website at 3milepondgirlcreates.com. So thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.